Exploration begins. By 1300, innovations such as navigational charts, triangular sails, and magnetic compasses had made sailing much easier. These new technologies also helped Renaissance mapmakers develop cartography, which is the science of making accurate maps and globes. A new age of exploration was about to begin. During the 1300s, Italian merchant Marco Polo published a book about his travels in China and India. His descriptions of the wealth and wonders of Asia increased European interest in the continent. Portugal set sail. Portugal led the search for a sea route to Asia. The Portuguese sailed caravels, which were small, triangular-sailed ocean-going ships. Henry the Navigator, a Portuguese prince, paid for voyages to Asia and helped train explorers in navigation. Throughout the 1400s, Portuguese ships explored the west coast of Africa by sailing farther and farther south. In 1488, Bartholomew Dias became the first explorer to travel around the southern tip of Africa. In 1497, Vasco da Gama reached India. During the first half of the 1500s, the Portuguese established trading centers in India, Southeast Asia, and China. They enabled Portugal to end Italy's control over trade with Asia. Reaching the Americas. Italian explorer Christopher Columbus promised to reach Asia by sailing westward across the Atlantic. Spain's rulers agreed to finance his voyage. They wanted to take part in the rich Asian spice trade. In October 1492, Columbus and his crew made landfall in the Caribbean. He believed he had reached the Indies, the islands in Southeast Asia, so he called the native people Indians. He later wrote, "They came to the ship in canoes, some of them large enough to contain 40 or 45 men." Christopher Columbus did not reach Asia, but he helped Spain start an empire in the Americas. Age of Empires. The age of exploration was also an age of imperialism, otherwise known as empire building. European countries expanded their empires by taking over lands as colonies. These colonies made European nations wealthy and powerful. Spain conquers the New World. Many Spanish explorers followed Columbus to the Americas. In 1513, Vasco Núñez de Balboa became the first European to reach the Pacific Ocean from the Americas. This proved that he was not in Asia. The explorer Amerigo Vespucci believed that the explorers had found a new world. A mapmaker at the time called the New World America after Vespucci. Spain sent conquistadors, otherwise known as conquerors, to the Americas to seize new lands. They used gunpowder, a Chinese invention, to help them conquer native peoples. In the Caribbean islands, the Spanish set up plantations, or large commercial farms. In Mexico, Spanish troops under Hernán Cortés took control of the Aztec Empire. In Peru, troops under Francisco Pizarro conquered the Inca Empire. Spain took huge amounts of gold and silver from its American colonies. The Spanish Empire covered much of the Americas. Establishing new colonies. Explorers also searched for a northwest passage. This is a route between the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans along the northern coast of North America. They hoped to increase trade with Asia by finding a faster sea route. Explorers never found a northwest passage, but others established new colonies in North America. Both England and France claimed lands in eastern North America. They also traded with Native Americans for furs to take back to Europe. By the mid-1700s, England had a group of colonies stretching down the Atlantic coast of North America. Early settlements included Jamestown in Virginia and Plymouth Colony in New England. The Netherlands had also founded North American colonies, but the English took them over. The Dutch, English, and French had colonies in other regions. The Dutch controlled land in the East Indies. England and France had additional colonies in India. England also founded colonies in Australia during the early 1800s. Most of these colonies began as places to send people convicted of crimes. By the late 1800s, though, most colonists in Australia were not criminals. Those colonists went to Australia to make a living in agriculture, mining, or in Australia's growing cities. Triangular trade. Plantation agriculture. Plantations in the Caribbean and southeastern North America produced crops such as sugar and tobacco. Plantation agriculture required huge numbers of workers. At first, landowners used Native Americans, but they fell ill from European diseases. Europeans began to bring enslaved Africans to do this work. In time, a system known as triangular trade developed. The triangular trade was a three-stage pattern of Atlantic trade that carried goods and enslaved people between Europe, Africa, and the Americas. In the first stage, Europeans shipped manufactured goods from Europe to Africa. These goods were traded for slaves and gold. In the second stage, ships carried enslaved Africans to the Americas. In the third stage, ships carried sugar and other agricultural products back to Europe. Trade winds and ocean currents helped ships along this trade route.